Hi, it's Aldona. Welcome. Today we are going to work on our cat-cows. Now, cat-cows is one of our easiest, and when I say easiest, I mean most uncomplicated. It may not be easy for you, but it's an uncomplicated two things that we do to manipulate our spine. Cat-cows, our spine is not in cat-cows. Our spine is not the only body part that we use, but it's the main body part that we're focusing on. So our spine, I want to talk about the spine just before we get into it a little bit. We talk about neutral spine. And our spine runs along from basically our neck all the way down to our tail. So when we talk about neutral spine, we have a natural curve in our spine. And I'm going to try to point back behind me and give you a little idea of where I'm talking about. And I'll probably exaggerate a little bit. But a straight spine isn't 100% flat. We do have a natural curve in our spine, and that's what we want to get to, or as close to natural spine as we possibly can. So in our spine, basically we have three parts. I'm not going to get into a huge anatomy lesson, but in our spine we have a curve, an indent curve. It goes in here, kind of at the base of our neck here. So it curves inward. So I'm hoping you can see that. Now, depending on you, you actually might be in this position in your natural spine, which isn't great, but that's what it is. And then our spine kind of humps out, kind of across the shoulder blade area. That would be our thoracic part. So that hump that we have, it kind of goes back out. I'm exaggerating here. So we have our indent here at the neck. That's our cervical spine. And then it goes out, it humps out. That's our thoracic spine. And then as it runs down, as it comes down to your low back, it's going to indent back in towards your waist. So it curves naturally back inward towards your low back. That's the lumbar part. And then it kind of goes out a little bit, and you've heard me refer to this in class, I'm sure, a couple of times. If you were a kitty cat or a puppy dog, that's where your tail would be. So we're going to refer to that point, our tail, when we get into our cat-cows. So our natural curve in our spine is what we're trying to get to. Now, we may not have that perfect natural curve, but we'd like to go towards that. Now, you might have some funky thing going on your spine, and that's okay. We're going to do the best we can to try to get to that neutral, perfect spine. And cat-cows are a very easy way, uncomplicated, very easy way to see what's going on in our spine, because we're basically waving through all of the parts of our spine, and that way we can check out to see how our spine is feeling, because we know that when our spine is nice and flexible, it has movements, then the rest of our body is going to move a little bit easier. So if our spine is all jammed up and feeling tight, we're going to have a hard time moving. And we know the whole point is to be able to get moving, to do the things that you want to do off your mat, whatever that is. Whether it's running a marathon or something a lot less than that. I just want to be able to move around my house, do the stuff that I do every day with a little bit more ease. And that's kind of like the main goal. For you to do the stuff that you want to do a little easier, with no pain, with no hardship. That's kind of the goal. And at least let's get towards that direction, as opposed to being, you know, curled up in bed and not being able to move. So I'm going to get to my mat. Now, I'm going to have my props around me pretty much every time we do a video, just so that in case we're going to use them, they're available. So I don't know what space you've carved out in your little home or your little space. It doesn't have to be very fancy. It doesn't have to be very big. Find a little spot that you can kind of get, basically, in case you're unfamiliar with cat-cows, we will be in a hands and knees position. So if you've looked around your house and you've already decided that you have some books or blocks, we won't necessarily need them today for our cat-cows, but as you're looking around the house, maybe keep in mind, oh, I'm going to use this for my blocks or that for my blocks. If you need your blankie, remember, anything will work. A towel, a blankie. I got a couple of blankies. I have lots of variety of blankies, and you'll probably end up seeing a couple of those in these videos. So if you know that your knees are an issue when we are on our hands and knees, you might want to have, you know, your blankie or your cushion or whatever you're going to use underneath to prop you, just in case your mat isn't enough support for you. So my bolster I'm just going to have there because I might use it a little bit later. I'm going to move my blocks over to the side a little bit, and I'm going to just move my blankie over. So we are going to get into a little bit of movement here, and I keep saying it again and again and again. You're going to do what you can. I'm going to give you a whole bunch of different modifications, and then you're going to pick the one that best suits you for right now, for today. And then keep those others in your toolbox so that you can use them for other times. So if today's, you know, a super person day, you might want to go a little bit further. If today's not a super person day and you need to take it a little bit less, that's okay. I want to give you lots of options for the particular day that you're having. So our cat-cows. Basically, we are going to start in a tabletop position, which is basically on our hands and on our knees. So there's a few things that we need to do, or we should do, to set up our body in the best possible way. Now, we have to find what works best for us. So again, right off the bat, in our hands and knees position, we might notice that right away my knees need a little bit of cushion because they have issues. Because who doesn't have issues, right? Anyways, we got to find what we can. So if I already know that I need some business underneath my knees, I'm going to put them underneath there. So we're going to get in our hands and knees, and we'd like to try to set up ourselves with as best a position that's going to prevent further injuries. But again, you have to do the best that you can with what's going on today. So as best as I can, I'd like to put my hands underneath my shoulders, and you'll probably notice that I'm not exactly perfect. Imagine that. We're not perfect. Anyways, hands as best as I can underneath my shoulders, knees as best as I can underneath my hips. So you might notice that you have a tendency to maybe lean back a little bit, maybe you lean forward a little bit. Do the best you can with setting yourself up. Hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips, and we're looking for that neutral spine. Remember, it's not a 100% flat, it's got that natural little S curve in our spine. So that's what we're trying to get to. Now, before we move in our cat-cows, I want to talk about our hand position a little bit. So we'd like to find the hand position that works for us today. I'm going to usually go with a hand position with my hand flat, my palm flat on the floor. I know for some of you that's a little bit difficult, and we have talked about the wrist issue. If you have like really bad wrists and you find that even putting your hand down is just not going to happen today, you can go with this different position where your fist is closed so that your wrist is nice and flat. I'm not going to go there for the majority of the time because that's not what I need today. My hand flat today, it's tolerable. So I'm going to talk about this hand position a little bit more. So again, if you need to go here for your cat-cows, by all means. The whole idea here, again, we're talking manipulating the spine as one of the main body parts. So if you're dying a miserable death in your wrist, you're not going to be thinking about your spine. So if this is what you need, go there. Otherwise, if we're going in our palms flat on the floor, we want to work on our hand position. So we want to find something that's comfortable for our hands and comfortable for our wrists, because many of us have wrist issues. I've talked about this before. It's like top 3 complaint. I can't do yoga, I have wrist issues. So we want to find a position for our hand that we're not dumping the weight in our wrists. Is it going to have some of our weight? Yeah, sure, but I don't want to dump everything into the wrist. So what we need to do is to share the love. So we want to find as big of a hand position as you comfortably can. If you have issues in your fingers, whatever, if you have any arthritis, taking your hand really big is not going to be comfortable. So you have to find the biggest hand that works for you. What we're trying to avoid is those claw hands. So we're trying to avoid that. So I'm looking for as big of a space between my fingers as I possibly can muster today. What do I got going on today? Now I do want to find that angle that works best for me. Sometimes we have a tendency to point our fingers too much inward. I'm going to go this way just in case to make sure that you can see. If my fingers are pointing too much inward, it's not a great angle for my wrists, elbows, and shoulders. If my fingers are too far out, if they're pointing too far out, again, it's not going to be the best setup for my wrist, elbows, and shoulders. So again, I would like to find the angle that best suits me today. I'm trying to get that main wrist crease kind of parallel with the front of my mat. It's not going to be perfect. I'm not going to get a measuring tape out and go, oh, I'm off like a little bit. Find what works best for you. I'd like to push into those base knuckles as best as I can. And again, that might be an issue for you, but do what you can. Get those base knuckles in, get those fingertips to kind of grip into your mat. Not so much that you're like, argh! Just a little gription, a little bit of work effort, not too much, not too little. Find that Goldilocks spot. So here I am, I got my hands. I'm finding the position that I think is going to work for me today. I'm trying to rotate that elbow crease towards the front of my mat. I might notice that, oh, today my elbow creases are only facing each other. They might be only facing each other. And that might be what you have today. If, without moving my hands, once I've found my hand position, if I can comfortably rotate those triceps to face back, there's my elbow crease facing forward. Yeah? So that's what I'm going to try to do. If I notice that that's way too much work effort, then I'm going to back off a little bit. I'm going to find what works. So there's my hands. There's my base knuckles. There's my fingertips. There's rotating that elbow crease forward. So by now I may have moved my knees. So I'm going to try to find under the hip position. I'm going to again rotate those triceps back so that right away my collarbone opens up towards the front of the mat. So I'm going to try to find that neutral spine as best as I can. So yes, you might be looking at the video right now, but once we start getting going in our movement, I'd like to have my gaze just kind of in front of my fingertips so that that cervical part of my spine is in a nice neutral spot. I'm trying not to sink into my shoulders. I'm trying to lift out of them. So again, that little space between shoulders and ears, I'm trying to get as big as I possibly can comfortably. Don't go crazy, but comfortable space. So I can have the tops of my feet down onto the floor, or I can have my toes tucked under. That's going to be a personal preference. You might find, oh, this is more comfortable, that's more comfortable. You might kind of go from one to the other. I don't know. We're going to see. So again, my knees, are they underneath my hips, or are they together as I'm on my hands and knees? I'd like to have them underneath my hips. So for me, that means there's a space between my knees, yeah? So here we go. I'm going to set myself up. There's my hands. Maybe I adjust them a little bit. Wrap the triceps. Get those knees underneath the hips. Pick your foot position. Get to your neutral spine. Open up the collarbone. There's our start position. So from here, before we even start waving our spine, I'd like to engage my belly button. You've heard me probably refer to that feeling. So I'd want to just lift my belly button. Basically now I'm lifting it this way, right? I'm going up towards the sky or up towards my low back, however way you want to look at it. So get that little bit of engagement. Not so much that you, I don't want to go there yet. So it's that feeling. You may not even see a movement. Nobody's going to see a movement, but you need to feel that lifting sensation. Yeah? So here I am, tabletop. I'm going to take that lifting sensation in my belly button and just notice what body parts are already working there. You might kind of feel your abdomen engaged. You might feel a little bit of your belly, ribs, front side of your body. Maybe you feel it in the back. Maybe you feel it in the shoulder. Where do you feel it? You're going to feel some sort of engagement. This is your perfect opportunity to check in with your hands. Are you pushing into those base knuckles and those fingertips, or have you forgotten and you kind of changed it? That engagement in your belly, that might be enough for you today. You might just be like, holy moly, I don't even remember having to do that. So as I find my hands, as I lift out of my shoulders, as my knees are underneath my hips, and as I'm trying to lift that belly button, taking the gaze forward, that might be already enough work. And then you might be thinking, oh man, I need a break. I already need a break. And that's fine. You might take the weight out of your hands, give them a little wiggle jiggle, maybe get a drink, wipe the sweat off. Okay, I'm taking my 2-second breather. Maybe you don't need it, but just let's pretend I need it. Right? Okay, so I've taken my break. I'm going to come back, and I'm going to set up my hands again. And maybe they're not in the exact same spot that you were just in. That's okay, find what works. So here I am, I'm gonna find my hands. What angle works for me? Am I pushing into those base knuckles? Am I pushing into the fingertips? How's my wrist? Is the elbow crease trying to face forward? Triceps are gonna face back. Are my knees actually underneath my hips? Maybe they're too wide right now. That's gonna be a little funky on my spine, so I'd like to get underneath my hips. Oh yeah, the hip bone, right? Not the meaty part of my hips. My hips are wider than those hip bones. Remember those hip bones? If I poke around in there, there you are. It's there, it's in there, it's in there. So that's where I want my knees. There's my hands. All right, got that engaged belly going on, that little feeling? So right away, engaged hands, engaged shoulders, open up the collarbone. I got my belly button engaged, and now we're gonna start our cat-cows. So our first position I'm gonna start with today is the cow position. So with that engaged belly, so that lifted belly button, keep that engagement going. And remember that tail we talked about if you were a kitty cat or a puppy dog? I'm gonna start lifting that tail upward towards the sky as my belly drops down towards the floor. Now, I'm still keeping that engagement. I'm not just dropping my belly down in what I many times referred to as saggy belly. So yes, gravity is pulling it down here, but I still want to have it a little bit engaged. So there goes my tail. My tail is lifting, my belly is dropping. I'm still trying to aim those triceps to the back of the room. I'm going to lift my gaze maybe a little bit further in front of my mat to open up my collarbone. And that would be with my inhale, because my inhale is opening up the front side of my body. Yes? So far so good? And then from wherever I am, I'm going to start going into my cat position with my tail first. So here I am. I just finished the end of my cow position, and I'm going to take my tail, I'm back there, my tail. I'm going to tuck him under. So tuck him down towards the mat as I start to hollow out my belly. I'm going to push into my hands, and I'm going to keep hollowing out the front side of my body. Remember that big humpy part of your back, the thoracic spine? I'm going to aim it up towards the sky. I'm gently dropping my chin down towards my chest, and my gaze is moving from in front of my mat to closer between my hands, underneath my belly, and maybe my gaze goes to my knees. Maybe I can see my knees. Maybe I can see my toes back there towards the back of the mat. And as you get to your kitty cat position, think of a scared kitty cat, I'm arching my back up towards the spine, I'm arching my spine up towards the sky. I'm pushing into my hands, not my wrists, my base knuckles, my fingertips. I'm engaging my arms, I'm wrapping those triceps, and I'm trying to get a nice curve. That would be all in your exhale. So we broke that down quite a bit. So let's see if we can kind of link that up a little bit. So now, again, I'm going to start with my tail. I'm going to start aiming it up. I'm inhaling here. I'm waving my spine, wrapping my triceps, opening up my collarbone. My belly is dropping, but it's still trying to be engaged, yes? So I'm going to get to my max inhale. And then when I start my exhale, tail goes under first. Hollow out your belly. arch your back up towards the sky. Maybe look between your hands, maybe look towards your knees, maybe towards the back of the mat. That's all my exhale. And then when your inhale starts to happen, there goes my tail. I'm inhaling, 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 inhaling. Maybe your breath is a little bit shorter, a little bit faster, and you're going a little bit faster than I am. See if you can slow it down. Do the best you can to slow it down. So there's my max cow position for now, max at this second. And then there goes my tail. I'm exhaling, I'm tucking my tail, I'm curving, I'm pushing into those base knuckles, fingertips. There's my cat position. I'm inhaling into my cow position. I'm exhaling into cat position. Let's do a couple of those here. Inhaling, dropping the belly, try to keep it engaged. Lifting, opening up the collarbone. Maybe you notice that your arches are changing a little bit. Maybe they're getting a little bit bigger. I'm going to finish that one, and I'm going to take a little break, because maybe by now my hands, my wrists, my knees, some body part is going, you know what, I need a break. So I'm going to come out of it a little bit. I'm going to let go of my wrists. Whew. Do my little circus hands. Da, 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 da. Maybe you need a drink. Maybe you need to adjust those knees. Maybe you're like, I didn't really put anything underneath my knees, but now I need it. So I'm just taking a little break. And then I'm going to go back into it. Because I'm going to try it again. And I'm going to take all of that information that we just kind of went through. And I'm going to go, okay, I need to work on this. I need to work on that. Oh, my fingers were this way, and now I'm going to try this way. So you can play around with your cat-cows, because depending on how you feel on any particular day, your cat-cows might be waving your spine in such a small little way that nobody even sees the little wave. Because if you're all jammed up in your spine, it's going to be hard to wave through your spine. But we're working on it. We're trying to get that wave a little bit more. We're trying to get our spine to be flexible, mobile, so that we can move around after. So I'm going to go back into it, and I'm going to do some work. So when we get back into it, set yourself up. Find maybe a little variation, tweak this, do something that's going to get you a little bit more comfortable. And when we start doing our cat-cows again, see if you can start tuning into that breath, that inhale, that exhale. And try to use your entire inhale to open up the front side of the body. That would be in the cow position. And then use your entire exhale to curve back, or hollow out your belly, curve the back side of your body into that kitty cat position. Use your entire breath. And remember, your breath today might be a little quicker than usual. So if you notice that you're going through your cat-cows pretty fast, do the best that you can to try to slow it down. Don't go so slow that you're dying a miserable death. Find the rhythm that's going to work for you at this moment. Remember, tomorrow's going to be different. Yesterday was probably different. What do you have going on today? So I'm going to go again. Here we are. I'm going to set up my hands. I'm going to set up my angle of my hands. I'm going to get into those base knuckles. I'm going to get into those fingertips. I'm going to try to wrap those triceps in or towards the back of my mat so that the elbow crease is trying to go forward. I'm going to try to set up my knees underneath my hips. Maybe this time I try a different foot position. Check it out, see how you feel. So I'm going to get to my neutral spine. I'm going to engage that belly right off the bat. And I'm going to start with my inhale this time. So as I inhale, tail is going to lift. Gaze goes forward. Open up the collarbone, opening up the front side of the body. And then with my exhale, tail tucks, curve, arch. Here's my cow position. Inhale, tail lifts, engaged belly drops, collarbone opens, gaze lifts a little bit in front of your mat. There's my cow position. Tail moves first. I'm exhaling. I'm curving my back side of my body up towards the sky. Here's my cat position. I'm going to change my toes to see how that feels. And again, remember, your cat-cows might be simply right here. This might be your cow position today. This might be your cat position. But use your entire inhale to open up the front side of the body. Use your exhale to open up the back side of the body. So inhale, belly down, cow position. Exhale, tuck your belly in, arch your back, cat position. And you can do these pretty much any time of the day. You can do them first thing in the morning, anytime during the day. And it's really a nice way just to wave through your spine to see how it's feeling today. It's a uncomplicated move. It may not be easy for you, but it's pretty uncomplicated. All you're doing is waving from one direction to the other. Remember, try to sync it up to your breath. The inhale, you're gazing forward, opening up the collarbone, opening up the front side of the body. And then with your exhale, you're tucking your belly in and opening up the back side of the body. So just notice as you're going through these, is your breath slowing down? Is it speeding up? Are you creating tension as you're doing this? The whole idea is not to create more tension. The idea is to be in a nice space that it requires a little bit of work, but not so much that you're dying a miserable death. So these should feel kind of nice. And then once you've decided that you've had enough, you can come back to your neutral position, and we're going to sit back into our child's pose. So I like to take my knees a little wider in child's pose. And we're going to go over a few options again. So my toes, my big toes are touching back there, and I'm just going to sit my bum down towards my heels. So right away I'm taking the weight out of my wrists. So we know that coming into child's pose is another way to take a little bit of a break, especially if the wrists are your problem area and those cat-cows was a little bit too much. Maybe you needed to take a break even before I got to this. So I'm sitting back here into my heels, and I'm going to see if I can rest my forehead down to the floor. So I'm checking out, can I actually get my forehead to the floor? Maybe yes, maybe no. For now, let's say we can. So I'd like to soften the shoulders. I'm going to just relax my arms in a space that I can soften my shoulders. I can soften my back. It's curved probably, yeah, I'm sure you can see that. I'm sinking my bum down to my heels, and I'm taking a little bit of a rest here. Your child's pose should be where you can rest. So I'm just going to take a breath or two here, just to take my little breather. And for most people, this will work. But as we all know, that doesn't work for everybody. So let's go over a couple of options. So this is where I'm going to start using some of my props. And one of these modifications, one of these ways of doing a child's pose might suit you. So I'm going to use my blocks and my bolster to give you a couple of ideas. So from our tabletop, sitting back into our heels, for some people, right away is an issue for the knees. Sitting back here is just uncomfortable. It might be for your knees, it might be for your ankles, for your toes. Just sitting here may be a no-go area. So we talked about this before. You can elevate your hips by using your block. So I'm going to turn just a little bit so you can see. I'm going to take my block here between my feet there, between my shins, and I'm going to sit my bum right on my block. So I basically am sitting on one of my blocks. Could be your book, whatever you've decided. Could be a couple of pillows. I'm using my block right now to show you. So one block is enough for me to take a little bit of the pressure out of my knees. And that might be perfect for you. And sitting here on my block with my torso vertical might be the version of my child's pose that I need. Obviously it looks a little different. This is our hero's pose, but maybe this is the shape that you need to be in to take a 2-second breather. Yeah? So maybe one block isn't enough. Maybe you need 2 blocks. I'm going to sit down on my 2 blocks. For me, that's a little too high. I don't need that. But maybe if you have issues in your ankle, maybe that height will make it a little bit more comfortable for you. So that's a couple of modifications. So I'm going to go back here and use my block underneath my bum, and maybe that will be enough that I can kind of bring my head down to the floor. Now you can see right now I can't quite get my forehead to the floor in this position, but I do want to rest my head on something because I don't want to be holding myself. So I can use another block here. So if I'm using one here, I can use one here of my book, whatever I've chosen. I'm going to move this one out of the way just a little bit because for me, I like knees a little wider. I could be using my block here if I need it. And I'm going to rest my forehead on the block. That height might work for my knees, my back, my shoulders. Remember, I might have body parts in the way here, and it might be difficult for me to get my head to the mat, so I can use my block. I can use it on a little higher height. If your block is super hard and it's not comfortable, my block is a little bit on the hard side and it may not work for you, you can use your blanket, your pillow, your bolster, and you can rest your head here. So now that's pretty comfy for me. I'm comfortable, my knees are comfortable, my back is comfortable. My forehead is resting on a nice soft pillow. And then you try to find the hand position that best suits you right now. Maybe your hands are just kind of in front of your knees a little bit. Maybe you even want to change your hand position and point your fingers towards the back of your mat. That way your shoulders kind of roll forward, but that might be what you need right now. Maybe that is comfortable for you. And your child's pose, it should be something that you can maintain for at least, a minute or two. Because you're supposed to be catching your breath here. You're supposed to be taking a break from whatever we were doing before, and you exerted a little bit too much effort. You need a break. You want to come back to child's pose. Or maybe you're sitting on a block, hero's pose. Whatever modification you've chosen for that particular day, you want to be comfortable. You might even notice that, you know what, I gotta come off my feet completely, off my knees completely, and I'm just hanging out here. Maybe that's what you need. If that's where you can catch your breath, I'm taking my breath. It doesn't matter. If that's what you need today, then that's what you need. So again, depending on the day, you're going to pick and choose different shapes. You're going to look different on these days. Some days you want this version of child's pose, maybe that version of child's pose. Whatever works, that's the one that you're going to use. So that's child's pose. So I think we're going to leave it at that for now, for today. So if you're still in your child's pose by chance, slowly get your torso up. Make your way to your sit position. And remember, we've gone over a few sit positions, yes? So I'm going to find the cross-legged that works for me today. So if sitting on your mat cross-legged is comfortable, then you go there. I'm going to use my bolster again, because I consider my hips to be relatively tight. So I'm always going to go where I think is going to work on my hips. And because I still feel that they're a little tight, the height of my bolster or my block is going to help me to sit for a second or two a little bit easier. So I'm going to find my cross-leg position. We'll talk about that a little bit more in some videos coming up, but do the best you can to find a comfortable sit, whether on your mat, on your block, on your bolster, on your book. Maybe you're sitting in your chair, maybe you're sitting on the wall, remember that? So again, I'm going to try to find the most upright that I can be right now. So my spine, that natural curve, that's where I'm trying to get to. You might notice that you're kind of curving forward because of years and years of bad posture and bad movement, and if that's what you have, that's what you have. We're looking to try to straighten out. So again, I'm trying to get to that perfect natural spine. Perfect. So here I am. I'm going to sit. I'm going to sit as tall as I can, that's comfortable. Again, you don't want to overdo this. Find that Goldilocks spot. Okay, I found my hips, found my knees. I'm going to find my hand position. Which one do I want to pick today? Do I want to pick the one where my palms are just kind of on top of each other in my lap? Maybe that one suits me best for my shoulders today. Maybe I'm okay by taking my hands on my knees, thighs area. Again, if you're choosing that one, take the palms up. We'll discuss that. So if that makes my shoulders feel the best, then I'm going to go for that one. Maybe you're okay with taking that prayer position, where my palms are pressing into each other. I'm taking my thumbs and I'm pushing it into my heart center. And I might even be able to today push my heart center a little bit into those thumbs. Maybe get a little bit of a opening on the front side of my body. Not too much, just a little bit. Maybe that makes me sit just that smidgen taller. I'm going to soften the shoulders. And I'm going to take 2 breaths here. A nice inhale. And an exhale. Another inhale. Let it go in your exhale. We'll finish here today, honoring the divine light that is located within each and every one of us. Namaste. Thanks again for joining me. And I can't forget about that housekeeping stuff. If you think that somebody might benefit from these videos, please share. Please consider subscribing. And please consider hitting that thumbs up thingy. We'll talk soon. Bye for now.